was violating city code by sitting in the driveway, but Marcus didn't care. It was his latest project, in which he had the whole family involved. He told his children they had to finish transforming the bus into a motorhome, since the city seemed anxious to evict them from the house. He told them they would drive the bus to Washington to visit his ailing father, and then embark on a cross-country journey. As Marcus saw it, the transformation would render the yellow bus like none other. The rear upper portion of the bus had already been cut off, and a hot tub was installed. He planned to gut the inside of the bus, and for seats, use the lids from the 10 antique coffins the children had been using as beds. Neighbors described seeing the women in the family dressed in long black dresses, working on the bus at all hours of the day and night, under Marcus Wesson's careful supervision. They did labor both of a mechanical and cosmetic nature, making frequent trips between the house and a storage facility where Wesson kept another bus he was using for spare parts. In truth, Wesson was more than a father to the girls and the women who lived in the house, and notwithstanding his obsession with vampires, that fact would be the one thing he knew the outside world would not understand. He believed in polygamy and incest. He told his young daughters and nieces that it was his job to instruct them on how to please a man, and he felt it was his duty to adequately prepare them for marriage. The girls wore rings he had given them. At his whim, they cleaned his rope-like dreadlocks and scratched his armpits. He shared unofficial marriage vows with several of his own daughters and 3 of his nieces. The young children in the Wesson family were the result of those incestuous relationships. Some were both his children and his grandchildren. Providing for a family of 14 was not easy, considering that neither Marcus nor his wife Elizabeth worked. Despite Wesson's conviction for welfare fraud in 1990, for which he served jail time, the family continued to collect government benefits, as well as depending on the income of the women in the household. Many of the older girls had worked catering jobs or at fast food restaurants and turned over their paychecks directly to Wesson, who managed the family's finances. While the family struggled to provide food for the children, he ate heartily and used the family's money to purchase a number of salvaged boats that he kept docked in Tamales Bay, off the Northern California coast. He talked about buying a world cruiser and sailing it around the world. Wesson maintained control over almost all the women in his life. It was therefore noteworthy that his nieces, Sofina Solorio and Ruby Ortiz, had managed to escape their uncle's control and attempted to start their lives over on their own terms. But both women were left with an insurmountable regret. On March 12th, they decided that would finally change. Having received word of the family's impending eviction and Marcus's plan to move the family elsewhere, Ruby and Sofina decided they had to act fast to retrieve their children from the Wesson home. Knowing that Marcus would not easily surrender their children, Sofina and Ruby decided they would arrive at the Wesson home accompanied by an entourage of brothers, uncles, and cousins from their mother's side of the family. They gathered at Ruby's house in Fresno to discuss the plan and to assign roles to all those involved. Their strategy was simple. Sofina and Ruby would demand that Marcus turn over their children. If he refused, they would grab the children and run. The male family members would handle Marcus, while the women made a quick getaway. Sofina and Ruby were careful not to talk to family members who might warn Marcus of their plan, which is why they both became concerned when Marcus's wife, Elizabeth, unexpectedly showed up at Ruby's house that afternoon. Fortunately, their Aunt Elizabeth didn't immediately figure out why so many uncles and cousins were gathered at Ruby's house. They told Elizabeth they were having a barbecue and needed to get some things from the store. Ruby told Elizabeth to wait until they returned. The group loaded up in their cars and made their way to the Wesson home. Elizabeth stayed at Ruby's house for about an hour before she got a call from her nephew's girlfriend. "Elizabeth, this can all end," she said. "You can get out of the situation. You can all leave." Elizabeth paused. She seemed to be struggling to make sense of what she was hearing. After a long silence, she shook her head.